Our most powerful machines have limits these ancient stones simply ignore. Scattered across the globe are megaliths, colossal worked stones that weigh more than any modern crane can lift. By the end of this journey, you will see the ancient world not as primitive, but as a landscape of staggering and sophisticated ambition. We will uncover how stones heavier than blue whales were moved across deserts, how entire mountains were carved into temples, and what forgotten knowledge their creators might have possessed. This is a testament to human ingenuity that defies our current timeline. What do you believe drove our ancestors to attempt the impossible? To grasp their true significance, we must first define what makes these stones more than just big rocks. A megalith is a monument, a single colossal stone or a core component of a larger structure, shaped and placed by human hands with a purpose that often reached for the heavens. These were not random boulders, but sacred spaces, tombs for revered individuals, or celestial calendars aligned with the sun and stars. Their creation was an act of profound cultural expression, a merging of spiritual belief, communal identity, and sometimes a formidable display of a ruler's power. The scale alone tells a story of societies capable of incredible coordination and shared vision. But for our journey, we need a specific, almost shocking benchmark. We are searching for stones whose verified weight surpasses the absolute limit of our modern lifting technology. The most powerful mobile cranes on Earth today, engineering marvels in their own right, can hoist a maximum of around 20,000 metric tons. That is the line. Every monument we will encounter exists in a realm beyond that line, in a weight class that our strongest machines simply cannot touch. This single fact transforms our view from appreciating old ruins to confronting genuine mysteries. It compels us to move past simplistic ideas of ropes and ramps and to ask deeper questions about the knowledge, the tools, and the social will that could bring such impossible visions to life. This shared thread of impossible weight connects ancient cultures across continents and millennia, revealing a global chapter in human history written in stone. With this foundation set, we are ready to meet our first titan. The mightiest crane ever built is a symphony of steel and hydraulics, a testament to modern engineering. It can lift the weight of over 250 adult elephants. Yet this pinnacle of our power, this machine that can assemble skyscrapers, meets its absolute limit at around 20,000 metric tons. That ceiling is not a suggestion, it is a physical law defined by material strength, balance, and the very ground it stands upon. Now, hold that number in your mind. The stones we are about to encounter do not merely approach this limit, they soar past it as if it were not even there. This is the core of our paradox. We possess cranes with computer-controlled precision, yet we are confounded by achievements carved from the bedrock of prehistory. The challenge for ancient builders was not just raw weight, it was a trilogy of problems. First, the sheer mass often quarried from miles away. Second, the unforgiving terrain, crossing rivers, hills, and soft earth that would swallow our heaviest transporters. And third, the demand for impossible precision, placing multi-ton blocks together so tightly that a razor blade cannot slip between them. As one engineer studying these sites remarked, it is the terrifying combination of all three that defies straightforward explanation. This disparity is not a mark against our technology, but a glaring question mark placed beside our historical assumptions. When we examine a 200-ton block today, we see a logistical nightmare. When an ancient culture saw it, they saw a promise, a divine duty, or a king's legacy waiting to be fulfilled. By first understanding where our own machines would fail, we prepare to witness where human ingenuity, in a forgotten age, somehow did not. Our journey into this realm of giants begins with a single stone so large, it was abandoned in its quarry, a monument to ambition that even its creators could not complete. In the heart of a modern European capital rests a reminder of what sheer human determination can move. The city is St. Petersburg, and the object is the Thunderstone, a colossal slab of red granite that forms the pedestal for the iconic bronze horseman statue of Peter the Great. Weighing in at approximately 1,500 metric tons, this single block is our first tangible encounter with the scale we are discussing. Its story, however, belongs not to deep antiquity but to the 18th century, a time of empires and enlightenment. This makes it a perfect starting point, a relatively recent and well-documented feat that allows us to calibrate our imagination for the far older mysteries ahead. The ambition was imperial. Catherine the Great desired a monument worthy of her predecessor's legacy, and that vision demanded a foundation stone of unprecedented size. The chosen granite monolith was discovered in a marshland, a massive fragment naturally cleaved from a bedrock outcrop. Its extraction alone was a monumental task. Workers spent months exposing its base, digging trenches and using levers to gradually separate it from the earth. But the real challenge, the one that echoes the trials of ancient builders, was movement. The stone needed to travel nearly 4 miles overland to the Gulf of Finland, where a waiting barge would carry it to the city. Without engines or steel cable, the solution was a symphony of brute force and simple physics. A team of hundreds of men operated a system of bronze spheres that acted as giant ball bearings. These spheres rolled within grooved wooden tracks, a massive, slow-motion conveyor belt powered entirely by muscle and capstans. The journey was perilously slow, taking months, with crews constantly reinforcing the path and managing the terrifying inertia of their cargo. Upon reaching the water, a specially designed vessel was constructed around the stone itself, a hull that literally embraced its weight to prevent capsizing. When you stand before the bronze horseman today, you see the powerful statue, but the true testament to human effort is beneath the horse's hooves. This endeavor, using the best technology of its era, pushed the absolute limits of the possible. It required a nation's resources, relentless coordination, and a willingness to attempt what seemed ludicrous. And yet, for all its staggering achievement, the Thunderstone is merely our introduction. It is a weight class modern cranes can, with immense effort, potentially handle. It is the last megalith on our journey that fits even remotely within the realm of our conventional understanding. By starting here with this documented struggle, we gain a profound appreciation for the silence that surrounds the next stones. For if moving 1,500 tons was an epic saga of the 1700s, what does it say about the cultures that moved stones 5, 10, or 20 times heavier, thousands of years earlier, and left us not a single engineering manual? The Thunderstone is the prologue, a recent echo of an ancient art. Now we step back into a much deeper past where the stones grow larger and the methods fade into the realm of genuine enigma. Deep within the sun-scorched granite quarries of Aswan, a different kind of giant sleeps. It is not a monument raised to the sky, but one forever dreaming in the earth. The unfinished obelisk remains fused to the bedrock, a colossal ghost of ambition that reveals more in its failure than most successes ever could. This was intended to be a masterpiece of pharaonic engineering, a single shaft of stone meant to soar over 130 feet high and weigh nearly 1,200 metric tons. Had it been completed, it would have been the largest obelisk ever conceived in ancient Egypt. Its very presence, however, is a silent lecture. The deep, irregular fissure that snakes across its surface is the reason it was abandoned, a fatal flaw discovered only after an unimaginable investment of labor. This crack is not a mark of shame, but a teacher. It shows us the terrifying risks these builders accepted every time they committed to a project of such scale. A single hidden weakness in the granite could mean the loss of years, even decades of work. To stand beside it is to feel the palpable tension between human vision and the unyielding reality of stone. The classroom of this failed project is incredibly detailed. The entire obelisk was being carved directly from the living rock, a technique that required meticulous precision. Archaeologists studying the site can point to the tool marks still visible on its surface, the evidence of countless dolerite pounders. Dolerite is a stone harder than granite, and workers would have used these hand-held pounders, essentially large stone hammers, to painstakingly pulverize the granite along predetermined lines. Imagine the scene, not of chisels and sparks, but of a rhythmic, deafening percussion that echoed for miles, a slow-motion sculpture by collective force. The obelisk's position also shows the method of its intended release. Workers carved trenches around it, leaving just a few connecting pillars of stone to hold it in place until it was ready to be levered free onto a waiting sled. Every groove and mark is a frozen moment in a process we can only partially reconstruct. This abandoned giant forces us to ask a profound question about the ancient mind. What did failure mean to a culture that built for eternity? The decision to walk away from such a vast investment speaks to a stark understanding of material limits and perhaps a deep respect for the perfection demanded by the gods. It tells us their ambition was matched by a pragmatic, if heartbreaking, acceptance of reality. The unfinished obelisk is a humbling counterpoint, a reminder that for every triumphant pyramid or temple, there were likely unseen struggles and silent abandonments. But what of the stones that were not abandoned? What of the titans that were not only wrested from the earth but then transported across impossible distances, defying the very logic of their own weight? Our next stop shows us a finished product, a megalith that undertook a journey so audacious it stretches the limits of belief. Two titans stand alone on the Theban plains, their gaze fixed across the Nile toward the rising sun. The Colossi of Memnon, each a single block of quartzite sandstone weighing approximately 1,300 metric tons, are not just statues, they are travelers. Their story is one of motion, a 700-kilometer journey that transforms a river into a liquid highway for the impossible. These 18-meter-tall representations of Pharaoh Amenhotep III did not simply appear, they were delivered. The quarry site for their distinctive stone lies far to the south, near modern-day Cairo. This means the ancient engineers faced a challenge of staggering proportions, moving two mountain fragments the length of a small country without a single crack or catastrophic failure. The solution was not found on land but on water. They built ships for mountains. Imagine the vessel required, a barge of such immense size and strength it could cradle over 1,000 tons of solid rock. Modern maritime archaeologists studying this period suggest these were not simple rafts. They were sophisticated, purpose-built craft, likely constructed from massive timbers lashed and pegged together with incredible precision. Their hulls would have been designed for immense displacement, to literally push aside the weight of the Nile itself. The logistics are mind-bending. First, the stone would have been carefully loaded, perhaps by flooding canals beneath it to float the barge into position. Then, a fleet of smaller towboats, manned by hundreds of rowers, would have begun the slow, relentless pull against the current. They would have navigated shifting sandbanks, seasonal floods, and the sheer, unthinkable inertia of their cargo. A single mistake, a sudden tilt, or a collision with the riverbank would have meant disaster, sinking a national treasure and a king's legacy into the muddy depths. This was not brute force, it was high-precision logistics on a scale that rivals modern mega-projects. It speaks of a society with master shipwrights, expert river pilots, and a centralized command capable of orchestrating a supply chain that spanned the entire kingdom. The statues themselves bear other stories. Centuries of exposure have weathered their features, but in antiquity, one of the colossi was famous for a mysterious sound. After an earthquake caused damage, the stone would sometimes emit a faint, musical tone at dawn, which ancient visitors described as singing. This was likely caused by heated air escaping from cracks within the stone as the morning sun warmed it, but to Greek and Roman travelers, it became the voice of the mythical Memnon greeting his mother, the dawn goddess Eos. This blend of geological accident and cultural interpretation adds a haunting layer to their presence. They were not just political monuments, they became living landmarks, sites of pilgrimage and wonder. The success of the Colossi proves a profound point. The ancient Egyptians had mastered the art of moving single-block giants. But this mastery raises an even more difficult question. What happens when the goal is not a solitary statue, but a building made entirely of such blocks? When the megalith is not the monument itself, but a single hidden piece in a vast, interlocking puzzle, the ambition shifts from moving giants to assembling them into a seamless, immortal whole. The ambition of the Colossi was monumental, but it was a singular statement. In the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, we find an ambition of a different order, one that demanded not just moving giants but building with them. The Roman temple of Jupiter at Baalbek rests upon a foundation that defies belief, a platform constructed from stones so massive they seem to belong to the realm of myth. Known as the Trilithon, this foundation wall is composed of 3 limestone blocks, each one stretching over 60 feet long, 14 feet high, and 12 feet deep. Their weight is staggering, estimated between 800 and 1,000 metric tons apiece. To stand before them is to feel a deep, unsettling awe, for these are not rough-hewn boulders, they are precision-cut monoliths, lifted and fitted together 20 feet above the ground with joints so tight that, even after millennia, a knife blade cannot slip between them. The Romans were master engineers, renowned for their aqueducts and roads, but the Trilithon exists on a scale that challenges even their documented capabilities. How does an empire, even at its zenith, orchestrate the quarrying, transport, and aerial placement of stones heavier than a fully loaded jumbo jet? The conventional explanations of ramps, cranes, and slave labor begin to strain under this weight. Roman cranes, powered by human treadmills, were sophisticated, but their lifting capacity was likely limited to tens of tons, not hundreds, and certainly not 1,000. The incline of a ramp capable of lifting such a block to that height would have been an earthwork project rivaling the temple itself, a mountain of soil and timber for which archaeologists have found no clear evidence. This gap between accepted Roman technology and the physical reality of the stones forces a difficult question. Did they possess a lost method, a forgotten technique for manipulating mass that simply did not survive in the historical record? Perhaps the answer lies not in complex machines, but in an almost unimaginable coordination of simple physics, using water, sand, and leverage on a scale we have failed to replicate. The precision of the fit offers another clue. This was not brute stacking, it was a high-stakes architectural puzzle where a single error in angle or measurement would have meant catastrophic failure, wasting years of labor. This speaks to a level of surveying and mathematical planning that feels eerily advanced. Yet, the true measure of Baalbek's mystery lies not in the stones that were placed, but in one that was not. In a nearby quarry, partially separated from the bedrock, rests the stone of the pregnant woman. This single block of limestone makes the Trilithon stones look almost manageable by comparison. It is estimated to weigh 1,650 metric tons, making it the largest known worked stone from the ancient world. Its very existence is a profound statement. It tells us the builders of Baalbek were not operating at their limit with the Trilithon. They were planning to go even bigger. The block was cut, shaped, and prepared for a journey that never began. Why was it abandoned? Was it a flaw in the stone, a shift in political will, or did the logistical reality of moving such a titan finally prove insurmountable? This silent giant in the quarry is the key to the entire site. It proves the scale we see was intentional, not accidental. It transforms Baalbek from a magnificent temple into an open question carved in stone. The site does not just challenge the narrative of Roman engineering, it expands it into a shadowy realm of what might have been possible. It prepares us for a shift in thinking. For if a culture could conceive of lifting 1,000-ton blocks into perfect alignment, what could they achieve when the goal was not just to stack them, but to sculpt them into forms of breathtaking complexity and grace? The next stones we encounter were not merely placed, they were woven into the very fabric of a mountain. The winds of coastal Brittany whisper over a field of fractured stone. Here lies the grand Menhir Brisé, the great broken stone, a fallen sentinel from a world without written history. Its 4 massive segments, each a colossal piece of local granite, tell a story of both staggering achievement and profound mystery. In its prime, this single monolith would have stood over 20 meters tall, a needle of stone piercing the sky and weighing approximately 330 tons. To put that in perspective, it is heavier than 2 fully fueled Boeing 747 jetliners. This was not the work of pharaohs or emperors with vast bureaucracies, but of a Neolithic community, a society of farmers and herders living over 6,000 years ago. The sheer scale of their ambition redefines our understanding of prehistoric Europe. Erecting this giant was a ritual in itself, a physical prayer enacted by an entire community. We can envision the scene not with machines but with human sinew and collective will. Hundreds of people would have worked in coordinated rhythm, likely using ropes of twisted hide or plant fiber, wooden levers, and perhaps a complex system of frames to slowly, inch by agonizing inch, raise the stone from a prepared pit. The ground would have been packed with timber and smaller stones to control its descent, a dangerous ballet of mass and momentum where a single slipped rope could mean catastrophe. This was more than construction, it was a ceremonial act of immense social and spiritual significance. The location is no accident. The Grand Menhir Brisé is part of a vast, sprawling landscape of standing stones known as the Carnac alignments. Researchers believe these stones were carefully positioned to act as a giant astronomical observatory, marking the cycles of the sun and moon with silent precision. The fallen giant likely served as a central foresight, a key marker in this stone calendar, linking the community to the cosmos. Its fall, therefore, is not just a physical collapse but a cosmic silence. Was it brought down by a powerful earthquake centuries later? Was it intentionally toppled during a period of cultural or religious change, a deliberate end to an old order? Or did a flaw in the stone or its foundation simply cause it to fracture under its own immense weight over millennia? The cause remains debated, adding a layer of poignant drama to its story. Its broken state forces us to ask profound questions. What belief system, what understanding of the universe was powerful enough to motivate a society to invest such immense effort into a single stone? The coordination required here, though on a different logistical scale than moving the Colossi of Memnon, speaks to a similar human truth, the capacity to unite behind a vision that transcends the individual. It reveals a Neolithic Europe not of simple survival, but of sophisticated cosmic observation and communal ambition written in the landscape itself. This fallen giant reminds us that permanence was always the goal, but time is the ultimate test. It leads our gaze naturally to those ancient structures that have, against all odds, passed that test and remained standing not as fragments, but as complete and functioning mysteries. Across an ocean, on the most isolated inhabited island on Earth, stone giants face the sea. The Moai of Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, stand as silent witnesses to a culture that mastered its tiny, remote world with breathtaking ambition. While many of these iconic statues weigh a manageable 20 to 80 tons, their story is not one of mass alone. but of motion across a rugged landscape with no large trees, no metal tools, and no beasts of burden. The true scale of their ambition is embodied by a sleeping giant. Deep in the Rororoku quarry, the largest moai ever conceived, nicknamed El Gigante, remains unfinished, attached to the volcanic rock. It stretches over 70 feet long and is estimated to weigh 270 tons. Its eternal slumber in the quarry asks us the central question: if this was the goal, how did they move any of them at all? The answer lies not in continental resources, but in hyper-localized ingenuity, turning limitation into innovation. For generations, the dominant narrative was one of ecological catastrophe, a story of a society that collapsed under the weight of its own obsession, cutting down every last tree to roll these statues on wooden logs. This tale framed the moai as symbols of folly, but recent archaeology, led by researchers like Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo, has radically rewritten this script. They listened to the oral histories of the Rapa Nui people, which spoke of the statues walking to their platforms, guided by spiritual power or mana. This was not seen as mere myth, but as a cultural clue. What if walking was a literal description of the method? In a series of groundbreaking experiments, teams demonstrated that a moai replica, with its distinctive forward-leaning center of gravity and rounded base, could indeed be made to walk. Using 3 sets of ropes, one team on each side to rock the statue forward, and one team behind to control its tilt and prevent a fall, the multi-ton figure could be coaxed into a slow, upright, rocking gait across the landscape. This method is astonishingly efficient, requiring a relatively small crew and leaving a signature pattern of wear on the island's roads that matches the archaeological evidence. It transforms the narrative from one of reckless consumption to one of brilliant adaptation. The moai were not burdens that broke a society, they were projects that united it. Their creation and transport were acts of profound cultural expression, a form of ancestor worship where the living connected with the protective spirits of the past. Each statue's journey from quarry to coastal platform was a communal ceremony, a physical manifestation of shared identity and belief. The walking theory offers a powerful lesson. Sometimes the wisdom of the past is encoded not in technical manuals, but in the stories people tell about their own history. The success of the Rapa Nui people in moving their giants speaks to a universal human trait: the ability to find elegant solutions within severe constraints. Their achievement shifts our perspective once more. We have seen stones moved by river, by sea, and now by a rhythmic, rocking walk across an island. But what happens when the challenge is not horizontal distance, but vertical ascent? When the path for the megalith is not a grassy plain or a dirt road, but the sheer, unforgiving face of a mountain? The next stones demand we look up to where the air grows thin and the engineering seems to defy gravity itself. The path from the rocking moai leads us upward into the thin air of the Peruvian Andes. Here, at an altitude that steals the breath, the Inca built not with single giants, but with an army of stone. The fortress of Sacsayhuamán is a symphony in granite, a colossal zigzagging wall composed of polygonal blocks so perfectly fitted they appear to be a single, rippling piece of the mountain itself. While the site contains many massive stones, the largest are titans in their own right, with one behemoth estimated to weigh over 300 tons. But the true wonder is not the individual weight, it is the collective puzzle. Each block is an irregular shape with multiple angles and curves, yet they lock together in a 3-dimensional jigsaw so precise that for centuries the joints have repelled wind, rain, and even the blade of a knife. This was not stacking, it was stone weaving. To understand this, we must step into the shoes of the Inca stonemason. The process began in distant quarries, where workers used harder stones to pound and abrade the granite along natural fracture lines, a method requiring immense patience and an intuitive feel for the material. Then came the ascent, Transporting these multi-ton blocks up steep mountain paths without the wheel or draft animals is a feat that still baffles engineers. The likely method involved a combination of manpower using ropes and wooden rollers and ingenious leverage systems on ramps of compacted earth, but the true magic happened on site. The technique is known as ashlar masonry. A block would be roughly shaped and placed into position. Then, through a process of trial and error, masons would meticulously chip and grind the faces where it met its neighbors, constantly testing the fit, removing it, adjusting, and replacing it. This could be repeated dozens, even hundreds of times for a single stone. It was a slow, rhythmic dance of measurement and adjustment, a testament to an almost supernatural standard of craftsmanship. The purpose was profoundly practical. This interlocking design provided incredible seismic stability. When an earthquake strikes, a rigid wall of uniform blocks will crack and collapse. The polygonal walls of Sacsayhuamán, however, are flexible. During tremors, the stones shift and settle, absorbing the energy, and then settle back into place, often becoming even more locked together. This was engineering born from necessity in one of the world's most active seismic zones. Such an undertaking required more than skill. It required a society organized for monumental labor. The Inca operated a system called the mita, a form of communal labor service where citizens contributed time to state projects. This was not slavery, but a rotational duty that built roads, terraces, and temples, reinforcing social cohesion and loyalty to the empire and the divine Sapa Inca. Building Sacsayhuamán was thus both a practical defense and a powerful ideological statement. It demonstrated the empire's divine right to reshape the very bones of the earth, to command the mountain itself into a new, ordered form. Yet, this flawless craftsmanship invites a persistent and tantalizing question. How did they achieve such perfection with what we perceive as simple stone and bronze tools? The surfaces are so smooth, the curves so seamless, that some have wondered if the Inca possessed a lost method, perhaps using plant compounds to temporarily soften the stone's surface for molding. While mainstream archaeology finds no evidence for stone softening, the very persistence of the question highlights the breathtaking gap between the tools we have found and the results we can still touch. The walls of Sacsayhuamán stand as a silent, immutable testament to a different kind of knowledge, one where patience, communal effort, and a deep, tactile understanding of material could achieve what looks to our modern eyes like magic in solid form. This mastery of fitting stone against stone leads us to an even more intimate mystery, where the stone itself seems to have lost its solidity, flowing like clay under an ancient and forgotten hand. The seamless perfection of Sacsayhuamán finds its echo in a valley not far away, where the stones tell a story of movement against the very pull of the earth. At Ollantaytambo, the fortress and temple complex guards a sacred landscape, its most awe-inspiring feature being the unfinished Temple of the Sun. Here, the walls are assembled from colossal blocks of red porphyry, a stone both beautiful and brutally hard, with some monoliths weighing over 150 tons. The true wonder, however, lies not in their final resting place but in their journey. The quarry for this distinctive stone sits on a mountainside across the valley, separated by the rushing Urubamba River and a steep descent and ascent of hundreds of feet. This was not a horizontal haul, it was a vertical chess game played with mountains as the board. To solve it, the Inca engineers orchestrated a feat of logistics that feels almost military in its precision. First, thousands of workers would have quarried the stones using stone hammers and bronze chisels, a process of relentless percussion. Then, the real work began. The blocks were likely moved on wooden rollers, pulled by armies of laborers using ropes made from braided leather and plant fibers. They would have built massive earthen ramps, temporary mountains of compacted soil and rubble, to drag these titans up to the temple platform. The coordination required is staggering to contemplate. a symphony of shouted commands, rhythmic pulling, and constant adjustment to prevent a catastrophic slide. The Spanish chronicler Garcilaso de la Vega, writing from the accounts of his Inca relatives, described the conquistadors' utter disbelief, unable to comprehend how such work could be done without the wheel, the pulley, or the draft animal. They saw not just a building but a manifestation of a different kind of power. This power was both spiritual and political. The Temple of the Sun was intended as an impregnable ceremonial center, a place where the Inca ruler could commune with the solar deity in Tai. Building it from stones hauled across such a formidable barrier was a statement of divine mandate, proving the Sapa Inca's authority could literally move mountains. Yet, Ollantaytambo holds another, quieter mystery that sparks the imagination. On some of these colossal blocks, particularly on a prominent tier called the Wall of the Six Monoliths, the stone surfaces exhibit a peculiar, almost glassy smoothness in patches. Some observers have described it as a vitrified or melted appearance, as if the stone had been briefly turned to liquid and then hardened again. This has led to passionate debates. Could the Inca have used a lost technique involving focused heat, perhaps from massive mirrors or lenses, to soften the stone for easier shaping or to achieve a polished finish? Mainstream archaeology offers more grounded explanations, suggesting this could be the result of exceptionally skilled polishing with abrasives like sand and water over countless hours, or even a natural patina from mineral deposits and weathering over centuries. Regardless of the explanation, the effect is undeniable. It adds a layer of otherworldly craftsmanship to an already superhuman effort. Ollantaytambo, therefore, stands as a dual testament to the tangible, awe-inspiring logistics of mass manpower and to the intangible, haunting possibility of a refined stoneworking secret now lost to time. It shows us a culture that did not just accept the challenge of gravity, but designed entire systems to defeat it, all to build a stage for their gods. This ambition to reshape a landscape with impossible blocks finds its ultimate expression not in a single temple, but in an entire city conceived from the same monumental dream. High on the wind-swept Bolivian Altiplano, where the air is thin and the sky feels close enough to touch, lie the silent ruins of Tiwanaku. This was once the spiritual and political heart of a powerful empire that flourished centuries before the Inca. And at its core sits the Pumapunku complex, a platform of stone that does not just challenge our understanding of ancient engineering, it seems to openly mock it. Here we find andesite and red sandstone blocks scattered like a giant's discarded toys, but a closer look reveals a chilling precision. The largest of these stones weigh up to 130 tons, hauled over 90 kilometers from quarries near the shores of Lake Titicaca. That journey alone, across rugged terrain at an altitude of nearly 13,000 feet, is a monumental feat of endurance and logistics. Yet the true shock comes not from their weight or their journey, but from their form. These are not simple slabs, they are architectural components of breathtaking complexity, featuring perfect 90-degree angles, flawless flat surfaces, and intricate networks of channels and recesses that look as if they were milled by a computer-controlled machine. Some blocks have precise T-shaped grooves, dovetailed joints, and geometric patterns cut with a consistency that suggests the use of templates. This is not just construction, it is stone carpentry on a colossal scale. The Tiwanaku culture, which thrived here from around 500 to 1000 Common Era, achieved a level of precision that feels anachronistic, as if a fragment of a more advanced age was dropped onto this high plane. How did they do it? Researchers believe they used a combination of bronze tools, which are harder than the local sandstone, and abrasives like quartz sand mixed with water. By patiently sawing and grinding with these materials, they could achieve those impossibly smooth surfaces, but the tools alone do not explain the vision. The precision implies something profound, a standardized system of measurement, and a deep, sophisticated understanding of geometry. The blocks were designed to interlock without mortar, forming structures that could withstand the seismic activity common to the region. This was modular construction, where each piece was prefabricated to fit a grand, preordained design. It speaks of a society with master architects, a class of highly skilled stonemasons, and a central authority capable of planning projects that would take generations to complete. So we must ask, what cultural imperative drove such obsessive perfection in a place where every breath is labored and every physical task is magnified by the altitude? For the Tiwanaku, stone was not just a building material, it was a sacred medium. Their entire cosmology was reflected in their architecture. The city was likely designed as a physical model of their spiritual universe, with temples and platforms aligning with celestial events. The flawless stonework was a form of reverence, an offering of perfection to the gods who governed the harsh cycles of weather and agriculture on which their survival depended. To build with such precision was to participate in the divine order, to create a permanent, unchanging anchor in a transient world. The Pumapunku stones, therefore, are more than a technical marvel. They are a theological statement carved in rock. Their silent, scattered perfection forces us to expand our definition of what ancient cultures were capable of, not just in moving mass, but in sculpting it with an artist's vision and an engineer's mind. This artistic drive to shape stone into profound symbolic form finds an even more concentrated expression in a single, iconic block that served as the very nexus of a cosmic belief system. The obsessive geometry of Tiwanaku finds a more playful, yet equally perplexing, expression in a tropical river delta far to the north. Scattered across the Diquis region of Costa Rica, often half buried in the soil or resting in village squares, lie hundreds of near-perfect stone spheres. Known locally as Los Bolas, these enigmatic orbs represent a complete departure from the architectural giants we have seen. Here, the ancient ambition was not to build with massive blocks, but to create objects of pure, impossible form. The largest of these spheres measure over 2 meters in diameter and weigh up to 16 tons, carved with stunning precision from a single piece of hard gabbro stone. To hold a modern bowling ball is to feel a manufactured sphere, but to stand beside one of these ancient giants is to confront a different kind of perfection, one achieved through patience that stretches across generations. Pre-Columbian artisans, belonging to the complex chiefdoms that thrived here from around 600 to 1500 Common Era, undertook this work without metal tools, without the wheel, and without any written record to explain their purpose. The process itself is a lesson in gradual mastery. Researchers believe the creators first identified suitable boulders in riverbeds, then used other, harder stones to peck away the outer surface, slowly revealing the sphere within. They likely employed a technique of controlled heating and cooling, building fires against the stone and then dousing it with water to create fractures that could be worked more easily. Finally, they would have achieved that breathtaking smoothness through endless hours of grinding with sand and water, a rhythmic, meditative act of polishing that transformed rough rock into a symbol of cosmic harmony. But why? This is the central, beautiful mystery. The spheres were often found arranged in lines, triangles, or parabolas, leading many archaeologists to believe they functioned as astronomical markers, aligning with celestial events to track seasons or mark ceremonial dates. Others see them as powerful status symbols, physical declarations of a chief's authority and connection to the spiritual world. Some theories suggest they were representations of the sun, the moon, or even the planets, making the landscape itself a map of the heavens. Their creation was an act of profound cultural investment, a communal project where the value lay not in practical function, but in the expression of an idea. The skill required is a different branch of the same megalithic tree, one focused on artistry, symmetry, and symbolic meaning rather than structural support. They force us to ask a profound question about the ancient mind. What is the value of a perfect shape? In a world of unpredictable nature, the creation of flawless geometry may have been the ultimate act of imposing human order and understanding upon the chaos of the natural world. These silent stone planets remind us that our ancestors' drive to shape their environment was not always about utility. It was often about beauty, meaning, and the search for patterns in the universe itself. This artistic interlude, focused on form, makes the return to sheer, overwhelming mass all the more dramatic as we journey to a site where the stones are not just placed, but seem to have been grown from the earth itself. The Ramesseum Colossus lies broken, a mountain of Pharaoh reduced to fractured granite. This seated statue of Ramesses II, carved from a single block, once weighed close to 1,000 metric tons, a figure that places it firmly in the company of the titans we have met. Its story brings us full circle to the banks of the Nile, to the very heart of pharaonic ambition. The Ramesseum was not a tomb, but a memorial temple, a place where the cult of the great king would be maintained for eternity. The Colossus was the centerpiece of this divine theater, a physical assertion that Ramesses, even in passing, remained an immovable force in the spiritual landscape of Egypt. The logistical challenge was twofold, a mirror of the earlier obelisks and statues but amplified. First, the raw granite was quarried in Aswan, over 150 kilometers upriver. Then, after master sculptors had transformed that monolith into the recognizable form of the seated king, with his ceremonial beard and headdress, came the second, even more delicate act, raising this 1,000-ton finished artwork onto its prepared pedestal within the temple complex. Egyptologists point to the likely method, the construction of a colossal earthen ramp, a temporary mountain of sand and rubble built against the statue's base. Hundreds of laborers, using ropes and rollers, would have painstakingly inched the giant up this artificial slope in a controlled, terrifying ascent. The precision required was absolute. A single slip could shatter a decade of work and a king's immortal legacy in an instant. This was not merely engineering, it was a high-stakes ritual performed on a geological scale. The statue's purpose was clear: to dominate. It was designed to awe the living populace, to remind them of the pharaoh's godlike power, and to serve as a permanent conduit for his spirit, or ka, in the afterlife. Its sheer scale was a form of psychological and spiritual architecture, meant to subordinate all who stood before it, including, in a way, the gods themselves, by demonstrating the king's ability to command the very earth. Yet the fragments tell another story, one of deliberate erasure. At some point in antiquity, the Colossus was systematically toppled and broken. This was not an accident of time, but an act of political and religious revisionism. A later ruler, perhaps seeking to usurp the legacy of the great Ramesses or to demote his cult, ordered its destruction. The attempt to smash a symbol of eternal power into rubble is a profound historical irony. It speaks to the very human cycle these monuments inhabit: creation for immortality, followed by the inevitable forces of change, conflict, and forgetting. The broken pharaoh asks us to look beyond the physical achievement to the message carved within it. These megaliths were never just about weight. They were about weightiness, about making an idea, a belief, or a memory so physically heavy that time itself could not easily carry it away. The Ramesseum Colossus, in both its creation and its destruction, embodies the ultimate ambition and the ultimate vulnerability of speaking to eternity in a language of stone. This drive to carve portals to other realms, to make the intangible permanently tangible, finds its most literal expression in the next stones we encounter, where the megalith itself becomes a doorway. Among the scattered precision of Pumapunku stands a more complete, yet equally mysterious sentinel. The Gate of the Sun is a monolithic portal carved from a single block of andesite, and while its 10-ton weight is modest compared to the giants around it, its meaning is colossal. This is where megalithic ambition transcends engineering and becomes a sacred language. The gate is dominated by a central, radiating figure, often interpreted as a deity of the sun, weather, or creation, standing in a rigid frontal pose. Flowing from this central image are 48 smaller, winged figures, 32 with human faces and 16 with condor heads, all appearing to run in lines toward the center in a scene of frozen, ceremonial motion. This is not random decoration, it is a cosmology carved in stone, a complex theological document intended to be read by priests and perhaps the gods themselves. The sheer investment here is of a different kind. Master artisans, using only stone hammers and simple copper tools, spent countless hours pecking and grinding this hard volcanic rock to create the intricate bas-relief, a testament to patience as a form of devotion. They transformed mass into message. Researchers studying the gate have long debated its function. One compelling theory suggests it served as a sophisticated astronomical calendar. The arrangement of the figures, the rays emanating from the central deity's head, and the gate's specific orientation may have been designed to mark the solstices and equinoxes. On certain days of the year, the rising sun would align perfectly with the portal, flooding the carved scene with light in a dramatic affirmation of the celestial order. This transforms the gate from a static monument into a dynamic instrument, a stone computer tracking the passage of time and the cycles essential for agriculture in that harsh, high-altitude environment. The question it silently asks is profound. How does a culture's intellectual achievement manifest in its stonework? The Gate of the Sun provides the answer. It is a fusion of art, science, and spirituality. The physical effort to quarry and shape the block was matched by the intellectual effort to encode an understanding of the cosmos upon it. This represents the pinnacle of megalithic culture, not merely the ability to move mountains, but the desire to inscribe them with meaning, to make the very fabric of the earth speak of celestial harmony. It bridges the physical and metaphysical, showing us that for these ancient people, the greatest structures were those that mirrored the universe itself. This drive to build cosmic mirrors would soon find expression on a far grander scale, where entire mountains were not just carved upon, but hollowed out and transformed into portals of an entirely different kind. The silent theology of the Gate of the Sun finds a distant, powerful echo on the windswept Salisbury Plain. Stonehenge stands as a circle of giants, its largest sarsen stones each weighing up to 50 tons, a testament to a society that orchestrated a symphony of stone across 30 kilometers of ancient British landscape. While its mass may seem modest compared to the 1,000-ton titans, its achievement is no less profound. These are not quarried blocks in the conventional sense. The sarsens are a type of sandstone, remnants of a hard cap that once covered the chalk downs. Around 2,500 years before the Common Era, Neolithic communities identified these natural monoliths in the Marlborough Downs area. Their challenge was not to carve them from a cliff face, but to select, detach, and then move these pre-existing giants. The latest archaeological detective work has been revolutionary. Researchers have pinpointed the exact quarry site at West Woods, a location rich with the same chemical fingerprint as the stones at Stonehenge. This discovery transforms our understanding from a vague notion of a long haul to a specific, tangible journey. How did they do it? Envision the operation, a feat of communal will that likely unfolded over decades. After carefully levering a stone free, teams would have built a sturdy wooden sledge beneath it. This sledge would then be pulled along a track of smoothed wooden rollers, a method requiring immense coordination. As the rollers emerged from the back, they would be rushed to the front, creating a continuous, if achingly slow, conveyor belt of timber and sweat. Some researchers now propose a portion of the journey may have utilized waterways, floating the stones on rafts down rivers like the Avon, turning the landscape itself into a collaborative tool. This was not a random act, but a generational project, a cultural endeavor that fathers might have started and their grandchildren finished. The purpose of this staggering effort is written in the sky. The architecture of Stonehenge is a permanent astronomical observatory. Its axis is precisely aligned so that on the summer solstice, the rising sun shines directly through the monument and strikes the central altar stone, while at the winter solstice, the setting sun aligns with the iconic outer arches of the great Trilithons. This was a society that literally built its sacred space around the cycles of the sun, marking the turning points of the year with a precision that ensured their connection to the forces governing life, death, and renewal. Was it a temple for rituals, a burial ground for elite individuals, or a site believed to hold healing properties? The truth likely intertwines all these ideas. The enduring power of Stonehenge lies in this very ambiguity. It reminds us that the true weight of these megaliths is often measured in meaning, not just mass. They were anchors for belief, focal points for community, and durable questions posed to the future. This ancient circle of giants, so carefully aligned with the cosmos, prepares us to look even further back to rings of stone that predated by millennia and carry their own, even more cryptic, messages from the dawn of monumental time. The silent, ordered lines of Stonehenge find a wilder, more expansive echo on the coast of Brittany. Here, the ambition is not a single circle, but an army. The Carnac alignments are a forest of granite, over 3,000 standing stones arranged in meticulous rows that stretch for kilometers across the countryside. This is megalithic art on the scale of the landscape itself, a project so vast it feels less like construction and more like a permanent alteration of the earth's skin. The largest of these menhirs stand over 20 feet tall and weigh up to 350 tons, rivaling the fallen giant we encountered earlier. But here they are not solitary sentinels. They are soldiers in a silent, sprawling formation. To walk among them is to feel a profound sense of orchestrated space, as if you are moving through the frozen remains of a grand, incomprehensible ceremony. The sheer number of stones is the first staggering fact, but the second is their precise alignment. The rows run perfectly parallel, east to west, with a gradual increase in height toward the western ends, creating a powerful visual rhythm that guides the eye and the body across the terrain. This was not haphazard placement. It was a deliberate, generations-long project of surveying and execution that required a shared vision enduring for centuries. How did a Neolithic society without written plans or metal tools achieve such cartographic precision over such a vast area? The stones themselves are local granite, quarried from outcrops just a few kilometers away. This eliminated the need for epic transport, but it introduced a different kind of challenge, the relentless, repetitive labor of extraction and erection, repeated thousands of times. The process for each stone would have been a familiar ritual, teams using wooden levers, ropes, and earthen ramps to raise each monolith into its socket. But the scale of repetition transforms the act from a singular achievement into a cultural tradition, a rite of passage woven into the annual cycle of life. This leads us to the central, beautiful mystery. What were these lines for? The theories are as numerous as the stones. Some researchers see them as territorial markers, defining the sacred lands of a clan or a people. Others propose a practical function, suggesting the dense granite forest could have served as a seismic buffer, the stones shifting and groaning to warn of distant earthquakes. Yet the most compelling ideas are ceremonial. The alignments may have formed a processional pathway for spiritual journeys, guiding participants from the realm of the living toward the burial mounds and dolmens that often mark their ends. They might have been a physical calendar, their shadows at solstice dawn tracing lines of light and dark that marked the agricultural year. Or perhaps they were representations of a cosmic order, a mirror of the starry sky or the waves of the sea, permanently fixed upon the land to ensure harmony between the people and the powers that governed their world. The sustained effort required tells us something profound about the society that built them. This was not the command of a single god-king, but the expression of a cohesive, stable community with deeply shared beliefs. The work likely spanned hundreds of years, meaning no single person saw the project completed. Individuals labored for a vision they would never witness in full, trusting that their children and their children's children would continue the work. This speaks to a cultural continuity and a collective identity so strong it could plan in centuries, not seasons. Carnac represents a different pinnacle of megalithic culture, one of diffuse unity rather than concentrated power. It is a testament to patience, to communal agreement, and to a relationship with the land that sought not just to place monuments upon it, but to weave a new pattern directly into its flesh. Contemplating this army of stone, we shift our perspective from the singular wonder to the collective, landscape-altering endeavor. This same drive to sculpt entire mountains for sacred purpose finds a breathtaking parallel far to the east, where an entire dynasty carved their eternal resting places not from stone, but directly into the heart of a cliff. Across the Yalu River from Korea, in the hills of northeastern China, a different kind of mountain was built for a king. The Goguryeo kingdom, a formidable power that thrived for centuries, left behind a legacy not just in conquest but in colossal stone. Their royal tombs, scattered near modern Jian, are architectural marvels, but one stands apart for a single, breathtaking detail. Known as the Tomb of the General, its burial chamber is sealed beneath a granite roof slab so massive it defies easy comprehension. Estimates place its weight at over 3,000 metric tons, a single stone heavier than 3 of the mighty Trilithon blocks at Baalbek combined. This is not a structure, it is a geological lid, a mountain's capstone placed by human hands. The Goguryeo were masters of mountainous terrain, renowned for their impregnable fortresses and sophisticated city planning. Their skill in stonework was a direct extension of their military and cultural identity, a way to make permanent their authority in a rugged landscape. To build a tomb like this was to engage in the ultimate act of engineering, one that served both the practical need for security and the spiritual imperative for eternal honor. The method, as archaeologists reconstruct it, was a symphony of coordinated labor on an almost unimaginable scale. First, the tomb chamber itself would be constructed deep within an earthen mound. Then, workers would begin building a colossal ramp of packed earth and timber, rising at a gentle slope directly over the prepared chamber. This ramp became a temporary mountain of its own. The giant granite slab, quarried from a nearby site, was then likely moved on rollers or a sled, pulled by teams of hundreds, perhaps thousands, of laborers using ropes of woven fiber. Inch by agonizing inch, they would drag this titan up the earthen incline, a procession of immense effort and precise control. Once the slab was perfectly positioned over the chamber, the most delicate phase began, the careful dismantling of the ramp from underneath and around the edges, allowing the stone to settle onto its supporting walls with perfect, permanent balance. The ramp was then entirely removed, leaving the giant capstone seemingly floating upon the grassy mound, a testament to effort that was then deliberately erased from view. The cultural drive behind such an investment is profound. For the Goguryeo, as for many ancient cultures, the tomb was not an end but a gateway. It was a resting place designed for eternity, a fortress for the spirit of the departed ruler. Sealing it with a stone that no ordinary force could move was about creating an imperishable legacy. It ensured the king's journey to the afterlife was secure and his memory, literally set in stone, would anchor the stability of the kingdom he left behind. The weight of the stone was a measure of his stature, a physical manifestation of his enduring power and the loyalty of his people. This focus on funerary architecture, on building mountains for the dead, reaches a logical and staggering extreme in our next site. For if the Goguryeo placed a mountain atop a tomb, another culture went further. They carved an entire tomb directly into the living heart of a mountain itself. The ambition to carve a mountain for a tomb finds its most breathtaking expression in a city of stone, hidden within a desert canyon. The Treasury of Petra is not a structure built from quarried blocks. It is a mountain sculpted into architecture. While the titans we have followed were moved, this masterpiece represents the inverse feat, a monumental act of subtraction where the mass of stone removed is incalculable. The Nabatean people, master traders of the ancient world, did not haul their stones, they revealed them. To stand in the narrow Sick Canyon and see the 40-meter-tall facade glowing rose red in the desert sun is to witness a different kind of megalithic genius, one of precision carving on a geological scale. This was not construction, it was revelation. The process was a terrifying exercise in reverse engineering. Nabatean stonemasons did not work from the ground up but from the top down, beginning their work high on the cliff face. They carved intricate channels and grooves to divert the natural flow of rainwater, protecting the delicate facade from erosion even as they created it. Then, using iron tools and an intimate knowledge of the sandstone's layered composition, they began the meticulous work of removal. They likely used a system of rock-cut scaffolding, carving narrow ledges and footholds directly into the cliff as they descended, a living ladder that disappeared as the work progressed. Every strike of the chisel was a calculated risk, removing just enough stone to reveal a column, a statue, or a decorative urn, while leaving enough structural integrity to prevent a catastrophic collapse. This required a profound understanding of geology, of how the stone would behave under stress, and of how to read the mountain's own internal weaknesses and strengths. It was architecture as a dialogue with the living earth. This subtractive technique stands in stark contrast to the additive methods of stacking giant blocks we have seen elsewhere. At Baalbek or Sacsayhuamán, the challenge was one of assembly, of fitting separate pieces into a perfect whole. At Petra, the challenge was one of vision, of seeing the finished temple within the raw mountain, and having the skill and patience to carefully remove everything that was not part of that vision. One method gathers and unites, the other pairs away and reveals. Both, however, demand an extraordinary command of scale, planning, and communal labor. The treasury, likely a royal tomb or ceremonial site, served as a powerful statement of Nabatean wealth and sophistication, a permanent advertisement of their culture's prowess carved into the very trade route that enriched them. It asks us to expand our definition of megalithic achievement beyond sheer weight moved, to include the mastery of mass transformed in place. If a civilization can achieve such grandeur by sculpting a mountain, what reverence might they hold for a mountain that was never sculpted at all, but was worshipped as a divine entity in its raw, natural form? The quarry at Baalbek holds the ultimate answer to the question posed by the Trilithon. There, resting in a gentle, sloping trench, lies the Hajar al-Hibla, the stone of the pregnant woman. This is not a foundation stone, it is a foundational mystery, a single block of limestone that redefines the scale of ancient ambition. Its dimensions are almost incomprehensible, stretching over 20 meters long, 4 meters high, and 4 meters wide. Its weight is estimated at 1,650 metric tons, making it the largest known worked stone from the ancient world, a record that has stood unchallenged for 2 millennia. To stand beside it is to feel a deep, humbling shift in perspective. This single stone is larger in volume than many modern 2-story homes, yet it was carved from the living earth as a single, cohesive unit. The tool marks are still visible, a testament to the thousands of hours of labor invested in its shaping. You can see the channels cut by teams of workers using heavy metal picks and chisels, slowly defining the monolith's perfect rectangular form. They undercut its base, leaving only slender stone pillars to support its colossal weight until the moment of its intended release. every groove tells a story of meticulous planning and immense effort. So why does it still lie here, dreaming in its quarry? The fissure running along one side offers a practical, if heartbreaking, explanation. A flaw in the bedrock, perhaps hidden until the final stages of work, may have rendered the stone structurally unsound for its intended journey. The builders, facing this reality, made the pragmatic decision to abandon it, a project of staggering scale left to the elements. Yet, its very existence is the true puzzle. Was this stone ever meant to be moved? Some researchers suggest it could have been a demonstration piece, a proof of concept to show that such a feat of quarrying was possible, a statement of capability meant to awe and inspire. Others believe it was absolutely intended for the temple complex, a cornerstone for a structure even grander than the one we see today. Its placement in the quarry is strategic, on a gentle slope that would have facilitated the initial stages of transport, hinting at a journey that was planned but never begun. This unfinished titan forces a profound question upon us. If the builders of Baalbek were willing to invest so much in a stone they might not be able to move, where did they believe their limits truly lay? The Hajar al-Hibla represents the outermost edge of megalithic ambition, a line drawn in the limestone beyond which even the most confident engineers might not dare to step. It is a monument not to success, but to the sheer magnitude of the attempt, a silent challenge flung across the centuries to our own understanding of the possible. This contemplation of absolute limits naturally draws our minds from the physical stones before us to the intangible ideas behind them, to the realm of theory and the whispers of lost methods that might explain the unexplainable. The stones we can touch are only part of the story. Beyond the quarries and the standing ruins, in the realm of ancient texts and whispered legend, lie descriptions of megaliths that dwarf even the giants we have catalogued. These are the lost and the speculative, the monuments that exist at the blurry edge where archaeology meets mythology, challenging us to discern memory from imagination. Consider the Tower of Babel described in the Book of Genesis. While its precise form is unknown, the text emphasizes the use of baked brick and bitumen, but later traditions and artistic interpretations often imagine its foundations as cyclopean, built from stones of impossible size to reach the heavens. This may be a literary device, a metaphor for human arrogance scaled up to divine proportions. Yet it echoes a very real, very ancient impulse, the drive to build so high, so grand, that the work itself becomes a legend. Similarly, classical authors like Herodotus and Strabo wrote of the Egyptian labyrinth, a vast complex said to contain 3,000 rooms, its walls lined with colossal statues and monolithic pillars. While archaeologists have identified a massive temple complex at Hawara that may be its inspiration, the descriptions balloon into the realm of the fantastical. Were these accounts pure exaggeration by awe-struck travelers, or did they preserve a kernel of truth about a scale of stonework now lost to the desert sands? These legendary megaliths serve a different purpose. They are not physical evidence to be measured, but psychological evidence of how the past is remembered, often magnified by time and wonder. This line between natural wonder and human handiwork grows even thinner beneath the waves. Off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan, a series of massive, terraced sandstone formations lie submerged. With their sharp 90-degree angles, flat platforms, and what appear to be staircases, they present a haunting sight. The debate surrounding them is a perfect case study in critical thinking. Geologists point to the region's unique sandstone, which fractures along natural horizontal and vertical planes due to seismic activity. The powerful currents of the area could then erode and undercut these blocks, creating the stepped, architectural appearance entirely through natural forces. Proponents of an artificial origin, however, highlight the sheer regularity of the forms, the presence of what look like carved channels and symbolic markings, and the clustering of these structures in one area. They suggest these could be the remnants of a monument from a time when sea levels were lower, a lost chapter of prehistory. The Yonaguni formations, whether a breathtaking quirk of geology or a sunken megalithic site, force us to confront a fundamental question: how do we interpret ambiguity? Our desire to find pattern and purpose is powerful, and it can sometimes see a city in a cliff face or a temple in a tidal shelf. This speculative space is not a weakness in our study, but a necessary part of it, for it reveals the human heart of the mystery, our innate drive to ascribe meaning and mastery to the colossal and the ancient. What, then, can we learn from these ghosts of stone? The legends of impossible foundations and the debates over sunken platforms illuminate a profound tendency. We often envision our ancestors as giants, as beings of greater strength or lost wisdom. This is a romantic impulse, a way to bridge the gap between their staggering achievements and our own perceived limitations. It is easier to imagine a single, catastrophic loss of advanced technology than to accept the slow, grinding, generational effort of thousands using simple tools and profound belief. The speculative megaliths of legend hold up a mirror to our own assumptions about history and progress. They ask us to be rigorous with evidence, to respect the power of natural processes, yet also to remain open to the possibility that the archaeological record is incomplete, that the greatest stones may still lie buried, submerged, or so thoroughly quarried that only a mention in a faded text remains. This reflective pause, poised between the solidity of the Hajar al-Hibla and the mist of legend, prepares us for a final, unifying thought. Having journeyed from the documented to the debated, we are now equipped to step back and ask not how each stone was moved, but what this global tapestry of impossible weight truly tells us about the species that dreamed it into being. These scattered stones from the Andes to the Nile speak a shared language of ambition. Separated by oceans and millennia, the cultures that raised them were strangers to one another, yet they converged on the same staggering solutions. This is not coincidence, it is a testament to a universal human logic when confronted with an impossible task. The first common thread is the sheer mobilization of people. Whether it was the Inca mitas system, the pharaohs' commanded labor, or the communal effort of Neolithic farmers, these projects required a societal engine. Thousands of hands coordinated over generations became the ultimate machine. This labor was the true foundation of every megalith, a living, breathing infrastructure of shared purpose. The second thread is a profound, hands-on mastery of physics. Without blueprints, these cultures independently rediscovered the power of the lever, the inclined plane, and the roller. The Egyptians floating stones on barges, the Carnac builders using timber frames, the Rapa Nui teams rocking their statues upright, all represent brilliant empirical engineering. They learn through doing, through observing how mass and force interact, developing a tactile genius we can only reconstruct from the stones they left behind. Perhaps the deepest connection, however, lies in the why. The drive was never purely practical. These were acts of faith, of ideology, of cosmic alignment. For the Egyptians, moving a 1,000-ton obelisk was about connecting the pharaoh to the sun god Ra. For the builders of Stonehenge and Carnac, it was about pinning the chaotic heavens to the stable earth, creating a permanent calendar for their world. For the Inca, fitting polygonal stones was about creating an earthquake-proof order that mirrored the divine. The megalith was the ultimate symbol, a physical anchor for a belief system so powerful it could justify a century of toil. Anthropologists note that the process of building was often as important as the finished monument. The shared struggle, the rhythmic labor, the collective focus on a goal beyond any single lifetime, forged powerful social cohesion and reinforced the authority of rulers or priests. The stone was both the project and the proof. Seeing these common threads transforms our view. The Great Pyramid at Giza, which we have not detailed but which embodies all these principles, is no longer just an Egyptian wonder, it is part of a global chorus. Its precisely cut blocks, transported and raised with ramps and levers, built by a mobilized society for the sacred journey of a god-king, fits the same pattern as Sacsayhuamán or Baalbek. The differences in style are cultural accents, but the underlying grammar of mass, manpower, and meaning is identical. This pattern reveals a fundamental human impulse, a drive to create something that defies time, to make a mark so heavy and so deliberate that it would speak to the future long after names and languages were forgotten. It is the desire to translate the intangible, belief, memory, power, into the permanent solidity of stone. This unifying insight shifts the mystery from a series of how questions to a more profound why. It suggests that our fascination with these giants is not just about lost techniques, but about recognizing our own capacity for awe-inspiring endeavor. Having traced this common human signature across the planet, we are left with one final, resonant question. In a world now built with steel and silicon, where our monuments are digital and ephemeral, what form does this ancient drive to build the impossible take today? The silence of these stones is not an absence of answers, but a profound form of communication. Our journey past these 20 ancient giants reveals a world where human will and ingenuity consistently triumphed over seemingly insurmountable physical limits. From the quarries of Aswan to the mountains of Peru, these megaliths stand as permanent questions carved in granite and limestone, challenging our modern assumptions and inviting a deeper humility. They whisper that history is not a simple, upward line of progress, but a complex tapestry where knowledge can be woven, forgotten, and then painstakingly rediscovered centuries later. The most important takeaway from this exploration is not a single, triumphant theory of how they were moved. It is a renewed appreciation for the boundless creativity, the masterful social organization, and the profound spiritual depth of our ancestors. These were people who could envision a mountain as a temple and then spend generations making it so, not because it was easy, but because it was essential to their understanding of the cosmos and their place within it. Each block, whether weighing 50 tons or 1,600, represents a collective decision to invest in eternity, to create a legacy that would outlast languages, empires, and even the memory of their own names. Let these stones be a call to look at the ancient world not with condescension, but with genuine wonder. They urge us to protect these fragile, irreplaceable links to our shared human past, for they are the ultimate monuments not to kings or gods alone, but to the enduring capacity of communities to unite behind a vision greater than themselves. If this exploration has shifted your perspective, we would love to hear your thoughts. Which of these ancient megaliths fascinates you the most? Share your choice in the comments below. And if you want to join us as we continue to dig deeper into the mysteries that shape our understanding of history, be sure to subscribe.